Yay.
Welcome to the Sean Geek and Fast Red podcast. I'm Sean Geek.
And I'm Fast Fred.
How you doing, Todd?
Not too bad in yourself.
Not too bad. Not too bad. It's
Summer's coming.
I'm waiting for another snowstorm to come rolling through Winnipeg, you know, as it tends to do.
Yeah. If you don't
it's May long weekend, right?
Yes, exactly. But in Winnipeg, you just wait 10 minutes. If you don't like the weather, it changes.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So what are we doing this week, Todd? We got something a little bit different than normal planned.
Oh my God.
You want to break open the egg?
I mean, we've got Billy Alexander from YYNOT. I'm a huge.
Wait, what? Who?
What?
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 Are you sure?
Yes, from YYNOT. We've talked about them on our podcast many times.
Many times. We've actually played clips of them on our podcast many times.
Yeah.
And you're like, Sean, you got to hear this band. I'm like, what? Why not? Why not? What?
No.
And then you made me listen. I'm like, this isn't just a Rush cover band. This is way more than a Rush cover band.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, we have Billy. Billy, say hi.
Hey there, fellas. How are ya?
Great.
Now do that in a Canadian accent if you can.
Oh man, I'm afraid I'd butcher it. You know. Yeah. No, that's about all I got.
That's all you got.
Yeah.
So thanks for doing this.
Pleasure.
As Todd mentioned, our fans know that we're fans of the band. Todd is the Rush nerd of the podcast. I'm kind of the Kiss nerd, I guess. But I love Rush by association because Todd's played in a lot of bands that played a lot of Rush songs. So we've always got our ear to what kind of Rush stuff is out there, Rush adjacent and that sort of stuff. Right. And Todd introduced me to YYNOT, and I'm like, oh, okay, a Rush cover band sounds good. Let's take a listen. But I didn't think you guys would be that good. Like I was a little bit, oh shit, you guys are taking this stuff seriously.
Like if you close your eyes, you cannot really tell the difference at all. I mean, the singing is obviously it's not Getty, it's a different singer, but my God, the guitar, the sounds, like the pedal board that you have in front of you, is that the only equipment you use? Or do you have like a side rack with all these different sequencers and stuff on it?
Oh no, that's totally it. It's very bare bones, really. I mean, considering we're I'm trying to represent everything from their beginnings in the early 70s and then into the 80s a bit. So there's no rack mounted gear or anything like that. It's basically just simple kind of like Marshall amps and a few stomp boxes, and it's pretty much it for me. Yeah.
It's impressive because you're getting like all the lives and sounds on there.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's really, some people have asked me previously, like, okay, what's going on? You have modeling things and this and that, and I really don't. I mean, it's I don't know. Yeah. Well, the other thing too is that we're spread out across the country. Half the band is on the East Coast, half the band's on the West Coast, and so most of the time we do fly out dates. So I'm getting on an airplane and I'm just packing like a small pedal board, checking that, maybe 1-2 guitars max, and then we have backline usually waiting for us there for
thank God.
Whatever it is. Our drummer has kits though. He's got identical kits on at my studio here on the West Coast. He's got another one on the East Coast, and he's got one in the Midwest. So that's helpful. Yeah, so that's helpful on that end. So we don't have to have like a backline company scramble to put together a Rush style kit. But the other stuff, Tim and myself, we're pretty, we don't need a whole lot. We just need like a decent guitar in our hands and a couple things, and we just.
You're saying you're only bringing along 2 guitars?
Yeah, and sometimes one. Often I'll have a fan will step up and just give me a loaner guitar, and a loaner acoustic, wherever we're landing, and then I just deal with whatever that is and just play that, and then that's so nothing fancy going on there.
Oh yeah, there's a landscape going on there, and I'm like, I mean, I'm not the guitar player, I'm the drummer of this duo, but
Yeah.
um, I'm still like, what are all these effects? Like, I'm wondering, how is he doing that? Because I've
Yeah.
always been amazed by like how Lifeson does his stuff, and
Yeah. Well,
learn through my brother when he's trying to play it through, his effects pedals, and I don't know, it's
yeah.
impressive stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, well, I mean, he was, and I think it's similar with what Tim would probably tell you, with his bass and everything with the Geddy Lee bass stuff is, we just for whatever reason, probably it's seeped into our DNA because at 10, 11 years old, we just absorbed it and just maybe have a knack for just getting sort of that touch and feel for their stuff a little bit. And then I'm a big Jimmy Page and Pete Townsend guy too. So was Lifeson. So that
Yeah, yeah,
sort of flavor of style of playing and open chords and suspended chords and that touch and feel for a little bit of a trying to make a three piece or musically three piece a little bit bigger. You have to do it as one guitarist as much as you can by spreading out the voicings and playing a little bigger, letting notes be a little bigger as opposed to a lot of sporadic noodling or whatever. So that's a big part too that some people miss. It's not so much a pedal or an effect or a guitar, it's how you treat the music is bigger than a lot of people realize, how you play and your feel.
I like that because like what I noticed was I think there was a story we have we talk about Van Halen a lot too on the show. But there
Oh,
was one story about somebody
oh yeah.
picking up Eddie's guitar playing through his rig,
Yeah.
and it's like it sounds nothing like Eddie.
No,
No, Eddie, the tone comes from his fingers.
That was Ted
You know,
Nugent.
that's
was that
right.
Ted Nugent saying that?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
Yeah,
was. Yeah, I know that story well, and it wasn't just him; it was other people. But that's a classic example of what I'm talking about, and that's you use the effects, especially if it's something that's been pegged on the record for forever, etched and then live, you want to represent it. But even that, there's different ways to do it. You don't have to have the exact, you know, 1973
C1.
phase shifter or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, but some of those things I do have an ear for, and I've tried other things that come close and they don't satisfy me. So I have a few must-have things on the pedal board that I travel with that if I didn't have them, I could still do the gig, but for me it would be a little bit of a letdown, because I hear the difference for myself, and it makes you play a little bit differently when you're happy, you play a little bit better than when you're maybe just getting through it.
that's very
Right.
true.
Yeah.
That's
So,
very true.
what are your three pedals that you have to have?
Well, there's really only one that I feel like is my have to have, and that's my original uh, Boss CE2 Japanese chorus pedal that I got as a kid, probably in like 1982. And that was and it does the same thing for me now that it did then. As soon as I stepped on it, it was like instant rush.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instant Lifeson kind of thing. And it's one of those unique chorus pedals that also works well with distortion, because some of the other chorus pedals, they're very beautiful with like clean tones and sparkling stuff. And then you add, a Marshall amp and you hit it with that, and it all of a sudden splatters out weird. But that one, for some reason, still maintains um, um, some sort of grit and width in the right way that my ears like, you know,
Right.
if that makes any sense. I don't know.
I noticed on one of the videos, and only because I have one. I don't know if it's the same one you have.
Mm.
It's not an attenuator. What's it called?
Uh,
It's the white box.
oh, this right there. This guy, the little torpedo.
Yeah.
What do you call it? The Captor X.
Yeah, exactly. I've got one of those. It's a 16 ohm one. And I
Yeah,
saw it on the amp lit up and I went, hey, that looks familiar.
yeah. I don't use it really anymore. I think I used it for maybe 3 gigs or something.
Was that just to
Uh,
tone down the volume a little bit on stage, or
no, no, actually no, because I don't use the attenuator part of it. What I was using that for was I had my own um, Marshall cab simulation going on that was working better for me than just having the sound guy on whatever cabinet with whatever speakers was delivered by the sound company and
okay?
just hoping it. So that was a way I could bring something I knew was better to my ears to present to them to blend in. So it
Right.
really was more about that than anything. That's just. But I got a whole, not to bore people with the technical stuff, but I got a whole different thing going on now from that is. So I really sometimes I use it in the studio, but I don't really use it live anymore.
So like you're like the Bubba Bash that you were at.
The
That was
last the last Bubba Bash I was using a quad cortex by Neural DSP.
okay.
Uh, yeah, the previous year I used, that's probably where you saw that thing. That was like
Okay.
the previous year. Yeah, that
Right.
was like the Marshall backline and that. Yeah, so that was that.
So when did you like? How did you? I mean, we've talked about how I was kind of introduced to Rush. How were you introduced to it? Did all of a sudden you hear something in the radio? Was it someone in the family that had maybe a record or something that you listened to?
No, I had two older sisters and they had some cool stuff. Like, there was Boston Record and Kansas Left Overture and Allman Brothers and Rod Stewart and stuff. But I didn't have like an older brother that was like pointing me at a direction. So I actually went in initially with Kiss, Destroyer,
What?
and yeah, that's where
Nice.
I started. Because I mean, as a kid in second grade or whatever I was, those superheroes on that cover. I mean, just the cover alone, you're like, this. How could this not be good? And then you fire up, Detroit
You're
Rock
literally that's
that intro.
exactly how I feel
Oh
with
my
Kiss.
God! I mean,
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, and then that album's so cinematic as
Yep.
well. And to a kid, you're just drawn in. And then,
Mhm.
but fast forward, I was starting to kind of feel like, without knowing it subconsciously, I was hungering for something else musically, but I didn't know. And somebody had mentioned a name Rush, and that I didn't know what it was. So my older sister's boyfriend at the time was sometimes I'd be lucky enough to get in the back seat of his car with her driving home from high school, and I was a little 10-year-old, so I could avoid the bus and be like, I can actually get in the car. And I asked him one day, coming home from school, I was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of Rush?" Because I knew he had cassettes up there in the front seat. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I got some Rush." He pops in 2112 and cranks it, and I'm in the back with these
You
Jensen
started
clap.
you started there?
Started there,
Oh
and
man.
immediately, just like my whole DNA just like rearranged in my body and my mind and
Yeah.
everything.
The
And
spiritual experience.
I heard those thunderous drums, and then I heard those vocals, and I thought it was a girl, Geddy Lee. I didn't know.
Yeah.
He wasn't telling me. I don't even think he even knew. It was just like, yeah, I got some Rush. I left that car changed forever. I mean, just like I think I was just stunned for days and went to the record store thumbing through Rush, trying to look for something that mentioned priests, and
Oh, the
because I didn't know
priests of
which.
the Temple of
Well,
Syrinx.
I didn't know. I was like, I heard temples, I heard priests. I didn't know. He didn't tell me the name of the record or anything. So I was
Right.
on my own. And then I came home with the album. And then, I mean, I just burned through the turntable just relentlessly. And then I even started teaching myself how to like play it on guitar and everything. And then that was my introduction to Rush. I mean, that
Oh,
was
okay.
like,
So if you're learning it like at that tender age,
yeah.
like were the effects throwing you off? Like life's in this like crazy effect stuff
No,
going on?
because it was the way I responded to it was very sort of primal. And so even when I was hearing those power chords, like and those gallops, boom, ba bum, ba
Yes.
bum, ba bum, bum,
Oh
ba
yeah.
bum, ba bum, bum, I could hear where those chunky power chords were going down, 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 down,
Yep.
down, 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 and until I could get the right hand, dun, 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 dun. So I was treating it almost like an Indian tribal thing on the guitar.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then so until my ear was getting close to what I was hearing, that's kind of how I went about it. I didn't have like a guitar teacher going like, "Well, here's the way it goes." So it started with that, almost like a drummer, but
Sure.
on a crappy piece of junk guitar going through my sister's stereo, distorting it by just by ruining her stereo. That was the other thing. I heard
That's so familiar.
his guitar sounded distorted, and I didn't know about amps or anything. And I was like, well, it seems like when I turn this up all the way, I'm getting that fuzzy thing. And it's like, yeah, you're ruining her stereo.
Now, was this one of those floor console units with a tube amp in it?
It wasn't that, but it was like the piece of crap thing where you just had the dials and then the two crappy speakers she had or whatever,
Right.
and then a turntable separate, or no, well, I don't know, whatever. And then there was an auxiliary, and I figured out a way to plug the guitar into that auxiliary thing, and I just turned it
Hey,
up.
so that wasn't just us, Todd. So this auxiliary thing, because I thought that was a unique thing we had on ours, because our father was a bass player,
Oh,
and he would plug his bass into the record player or into the
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
the
Floor
console,
console,
and
yeah.
yeah, and he would play, and it was a tube. It was
yeah.
a tube, right?
Tube amp,
What?
yeah.
And you guys probably did like me, went to the Radio Shack and got the adapter, right? So because
Oh,
sometimes you
probably. Eh?
because if you had a guitar cable, there was those didn't have that, so
No,
you had to.
our Todd, did ours have the guitar cable
You know what?
slot?
I think it did have.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
think
Well,
it.
this one didn't. It had like the little smaller thing, so I had to get the adapter to plug the guitar cable into the
and I
stereo.
think our father knew what he was doing. So when he bought that piece of,
Yeah,
I think he bought, I can't. I'm not going to buy an amp. I'm going to buy this, and I'm going to play through there.
nice.
We're dating ourselves just for Radio Shack,
Yeah.
unless well, at least Canada anyway. Now
Oh no,
it's
yeah,
gone.
yeah, right.
Yeah. So did you play? Were you playing guitar before you heard Rush, or did you just try and grab a guitar after you heard
It
Rush?
was it was like simultaneous. Because with Kiss, I was like taking like a my lacrosse stick or my sister's tennis racket and just pretending to be Paul Stanley.
Right.
And then I got a neighborhood kid's crappy guitar for like $30, and I just started squeezing down until it sounded right or whatever. And then I think about 2, 3 months later, my dad sent me something from California from some abandoned apartment. Somebody left this guitar that was in shambles, and I had a bridge put on it, and then that was my first guitar, and it was easier to play than that acoustic, and so it was just like about the exact same time as I heard Rush is when I started teaching myself and doing it. So yeah,
So you taught yourself all the songs. This is all by ear.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I did get with a guitar teacher a little bit later who, just was probably helping me with some stuff and showing me, proper chords and had a chord book that he gave me.
Right.
But yeah, it was all by ear.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mine. Yeah. I've always been by ear. I mean, I can do tab, but I can't read music. So I
yeah.
mean, I went as far as grab the
And
Rush Deluxe the guitar tab collection.
very cool.
Yeah, but I haven't really gone through it because when I was used to playing at high school, I used to play it a certain way.
Yeah.
And then when you look at the book, it's like I don't know if I got ADHD or what. You just when you start looking at the numbers, you just kind of get wishy-washy. Then I lose myself into you start
Yeah.
just
I
noodling, and then you totally lose what you
I
were trying to do to begin with.
I totally hear you there. Yeah, I'm the same way. I trust my ears more than I do some tab books sometimes because I don't even I've 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 had people I've gotten into arguments with people, not arguments, but like somebody goes, "Oh, it's like this way because this book," and it's like, well, who wrote that book? I mean, it's a guy who thinks he hears it this way,
Exactly.
and I'm telling
Exactly.
you, and it's not the way I hear it, and I'm going with what I hear. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't like the way what you're telling me is right sounds. So, what
Yeah.
can I tell you? And then
It's just
sometimes I'll look at concert footage of Alex or somebody. Well, not somebody, him, and it's like, well, no, turns out I was right because he's doing what I,
hmm
you know,
Yeah.
he's the
but
guy
but
that wrote
but
it. So,
but at the same time, right? Like Alex might not be doing something the technical way you should do that chord progression, right? Like he's
or
not doing it, you know.
correct. And also, I've noticed there's times when he does not do the same thing he did on the record.
hmm
And I think that goes for other members of Rush as well. And there could be some reasons for that. Sometimes they might make adjustments. Sometimes they might just got bored and they're just like want to do it a little different. Sometimes they may have forgotten. It's like, oh, yeah, that's right. I used to do it this way. Now I'm doing it this way. I mean, they can do whatever they want. I mean, You know,
Oh, yeah, exactly.
they're them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly. You
Wow.
know what? Just as a funny aside, you're mentioning earlier, you thought the singer was female.
yeah.
When the first Rush album cover I saw was Exit Stage Left, and there's that lady, and I always thought that was the singer for Rush.
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
wow, she rocks pretty hard. Like she's dressed in, she's got a nice dress on, and
That's funny. That's funny.
I think I mentioned this to you, Todd, and you're like, what are you talking about? It's the guy in the kimono, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kimono.
Yeah.
No, that's that. Yeah. I was
That's
gonna,
great.
I was gonna
Well,
ask you.
speaking of the
Oh,
kimonos, did you guys ever play in kimonos?
No, hell no.
you
No,
never went that far.
no, that's never gonna happen. Well, we didn't set out to start this band to be a tribute band. It was a total
Yeah,
accident,
yeah.
you know. So yeah.
So I saw a clip of, and this was on the airplane, and I guess Getty was on the airplane, and you guys showed him the CD or something, or I can't remember what the whole thing was, but
Wow.
did you actually get to speak to him at all?
No, what I think what you're referring to, that was actually on a train.
Oh, a
And
train.
yeah, and it was a thing they were doing called, oh geez, Grapes Under Pressure. And it's a charity thing where I think there's something to do with a winery in Canada, I believe. I could have this all mangled up, but and then certain fans can get on this train ride to this vineyard, and
Oh,
then the money goes to this charity. And we had a fan of ours who was really into our first record, and he knew he was going to be on this train ride with Getty and Alex, and he presented both of them with our debut album, and
Wow.
he videotaped them, and they apparently had already kind of known about it a little bit,
oh,
and so that's what that was. We weren't a part of that, and then this fan sent us a couple photos and a couple video clips to show what went down, you know, and we were like, oh wow, that's really cool, you know. So that's how that happened.
so
So there's no.
you met these guys in person ever?
Uh, the closest I had was I was on the set for I Love You Man all day long in Hollywood when they were filming
What?
that.
Wait, you
Yeah,
were there?
I was there the whole day. Yeah,
No
and
way.
Wow.
yeah, and that was of course before anybody knew what that movie was. They were filming it, you know.
Yeah.
I had a friend from high school in Maryland who at that time she was working for DreamWorks in Hollywood, and I was living in LA. And she called me the night before, and she said, "Hey, you know, I remember you just loving Rush in high school and everything, and they're on going to be on the set tomorrow for this movie we're working on, and I thought I'd introduce you to them." And I'm like, yes, please. And so I drove up there the next day, you know, met her, and she set me up, you know, and there they are, come out, and they perform Limelight like 25 times in a row, and they're getting different, you know, the director's getting, I forget the actor's name. It's like Paul Rudd, and I forget the other guy.
Paul Rudd and Jason Segel.
Yeah, and at that
Yeah.
time I didn't even know who they were, and they're doing their gleeping around and everything, and then um, I keep waiting for the right moment that she's going to introduce me to them, and it just all of a sudden, all the guys in khakis and ties that normally never come on the set from DreamWorks, all of a sudden are on the set, geeking out, wanting to meet the band.
I
Yeah.
want
So
the
I
bass.
could already see the writing on the wall. I'm going like, you know, by the time it gets to me, this ain't, and I'm not going to be pushy about it. So I just decided to be a fly on the wall. So I'm like literally 2 feet away from the three of them as they're laughing, looking at the playbacks and stuff. But it certainly wasn't a moment where I'm going to tap anybody on the shoulder, right? Get thrown out of there. But I
Has a
dug it.
phone selfie.
Yeah, it was fun. So, and then at one point, fast forward couple years when YYNOT started, Neil's guy, Michael Mosbach, he said his Neil's daughter was a fan of us, and they wanted to have us perform for her birthday party on a yacht in up in LA. And then
Oh,
that just never materialized because of the logistics and stuff. But that and then now, of course, Tim works for Tech 21 that does the Getty pedal. You know,
Which one? This one?
yeah, that one. So they work together. So So we have, and then, the Bubba Bash, the last one, we had people that worked with Rush touring that were working with us. And so there's this whole community of the Rush guys that are now sort of, we're lucky enough to be around as YYNOT in that. And we never would have dreamed of such a thing. It's just a weird way the universe sort of brought this thing, out the way it has. It's just really been incredible, really.
Yeah, I saw Mike Portney, I guess, from Dream Theater.
Portnoy, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
was playing drums with you guys. That
Yeah.
was pretty amazing. Uh,
Yeah.
Now, the losing it.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, so is it Jonathan Dinklage? I guess was on violin.
Dinklage.
Now,
That's right.
did he play with Rush, or was
He
that
did. Yeah, he was
Ben
part of
Mink?
the
Or
Clockwork Angels orchestra when they were doing that.
oh, okay,
I believe so. Hopefully I don't have that wrong, but I think that was the deal. And then on the R40 tour, I think they only performed "Losing It" twice, and I think one time Jonathan played it with them, and then I think the last time was with the Ben Mink, the original artist on the record.
right.
Um, and so yeah, so Jonathan was kind enough he's actually performed it with us twice, uh, the year before and this last January, and of course he crushed it both times. And he also did this beautiful arrangement for the intro of the show of different strings, you know, and that just like had me. I'm like backstage. I'm supposed to start Spirit of Radio. Sorry guys, didn't mess it up. Spirit of Radio. And then, but I'm just watching him play this opening piece, and I'm like a fan to the side of the stage, going, I almost don't want to interrupt him, you know.
Yeah.
But my job is to start that lick for the Spirit of Radio. But I was just like, wow, what a moment, man. If for people who were there, they understood. It was powerful, very powerful.
Just standing there in awe.
Yeah, it really was. But it's like my job is to now go
Oh
out
shit,
there.
I'm playing.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So
Yeah.
how did you and Tim meet? Like, because you guys like you said, you guys are from two different coasts, right?
Yeah.
So how did you? Was this like something online, like a chat room or something?
Yeah, it
Like,
was
oh, I like Rush and you like Rush, and let me hear your stuff.
I'll try to say it quick so it doesn't sound too boring. But I saw Rush for the second to last show ever, R40, and as I'm watching them go back in time, and they're hitting that sweet spot for me, where they're right in that era of when I was a kid,
Mhm.
I was just awash with nostalgia, and I just got this idea right then and there. I want to write a piece, an original piece, an instrumental that basically captures a little bit of that vibe as a tribute, but an original piece.
Right.
And I called it Why Not, as a tongue-in-cheek sort of goof. What do you call it? It's like, and it was really for myself. And I wrote it and I produced it and played everything but the drums. My buddy in Nashville played drums. And it kind of got around and some people heard it. And then as people were checking it out on these Rush groups, I saw Tim playing Rush covers on the Rickenbacker, just crushing the Getty stuff. And he had heard it. And we got together and I said, hey man, why don't you redo my bass track on this tune? Just, cause you're awesome, and he did, and he took it to another level. And then he was working with some guy, a drummer over there, just doing these things. And they didn't really have a guitar player or no vocalist. They were just doing that. And I said, well, I'll play guitar on it. I mean, I don't know what you guys are doing, but next thing you know, we're putting boxes together of me out here and them there and doing these Rush covers separately and putting them together in one video. And then there was a girl in Orange County here, somebody, drummer friend of mine, recommended to maybe do the vocals because I didn't want like an older heavy metal guy like singing falsetto. I just wanted like something that was, I don't know, just a little different. And then that's how it all started. Then we just thought, well, if we can do this, maybe we can play it live, even though we don't have a chance to rehearse, which is crazy. But to this day, that's the way it is. We don't get to rehearse. We just show up at the show. We have like maybe
Wow.
half a song run through its
That's mind
context.
blowing because there's this weird chemistry.
Yeah.
Like every performance I've
Yeah,
seen, like there's this
yeah.
chemistry. Like you guys hang out every single day.
I think it comes back to the original thing of just the knack. And then we do homework. We just make sure that we have our stuff down. But I think really, even when you do your homework, if you don't have what you said, the chemistry, it can be just a little bit robotic and maybe the vibe isn't and the swagger isn't quite the same.
Mhm.
Tim and I, since we started this, we always have had this lock on this Rush thing because we have a similar story and a similar age of it seeping into our DNA. So when we get out there and play it, it's like the rehearsal part, yeah, maybe it's not as tight here and there on a phrase or a this or that, but we sort of shuck that aside in favor of the vibe, and that sort of brings it together. And I think that might be some of what you're hearing and seeing is that. And then Mike now playing drums with us, I think he's adapted the same sort of spirit where we just we just go for it, and then we throw it up in the air and hope it we land, and sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but we have fun either way, it goes. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a blast.
I was talking to, well, the guys that I used to play with, the band we used to play Rush back in high school. There was Mike and Norm, and Mike, I don't know, I couldn't find him, but Norm, I was talking to him the other day, and I says, and he knew about you guys too, because I was asking him, have you heard about Why Not? He says, yeah, I've listened to them before and that, and so I
Right.
contacted him and I said, you know what? I says, we're going to have them on the podcast. Is there anything that you want to ask?
Hmm.
So he said, and being a bass player, he was saying, um, he says that Tim sounds so much like the original, blindfolded, you can't tell the difference. My view is he actually has a little bit more of something for some reason. Kind of like
Agreed.
Van Halen's got the crank Marshall, but then you get a little bit more now. They call it the Brown sound. They're just something a little extra.
Yeah,
And I
I
find
agree with that.
that Tim has the same thing. I mean, Geddy's got the sound, but Tim has kind of tweaked it a little bit
Oh,
more.
he's got a signature.
Yeah,
Like I picked
Yeah.
that out right away. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I 100% agree. Since he's not here, I'll because I would say this even if he was. Well, first of all, he does have a little bit more of an aggressive tone, probably.
Yep.
And I think he also has a little bit more of an aggressive uh, feel because he's like Geddy has probably like longer, more spindly fingers, and Tim has like shorter, more sort of tighter thing
Right.
his approach
Yeah.
and his sound. But he also has back to what we started talking about, which is his vibe, just his own personality comes out in his playing. So
Definitely.
like when people like they'll say something about a Geddy clone or whatever, there's only one Geddy, and in my opinion, there's only one Tim Storace. Yes, similarities. By the way, he's also playing his bass lines, so guess what? And he's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of the similar instrument, that he's working with, and a similar approach of a lot of high end and bass forward tone in the mix and that. So you're gonna get that, but I've heard him and played with him so long that I hear him as him now. I don't even hear like the clone thing, you know what I mean? And I have to say for myself, I mean, when I play, I hear me. I don't hear like an exact knockoff of Alex or whoever, I mean, obviously you're trying to represent that to be true to them as the material and the tribute to that and everything. But at the bare bones of it, when you hear us, especially on the original albums, I think people, if they listen long enough, they'll start picking up what I'm talking about. It's like even if though it's Rush-esque, it's still our thing. I mean, they're at the core of it.
Right. Now, when you guys started I mean, you've got the album, your debut CD, the Resonance CD, the Light and Shade CD. I actually ordered them
Oh, that's
on
awesome.
on the 3rd of this month, and I guess I'm
Cool.
supposed to get a thing saying that it's on its way. I got a shirt too. I was going to wear
Oh,
it, but
that's
I didn't get
fantastic.
it in time.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, we were in like Chicago and Detroit until just a couple days ago, so probably we got to get to the shipping department and get those out to you. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
I'm
Wow.
sorry,
I
you were
was
saying.
actually like, I was actually like my daughter, like she wanted to play video games with me tonight. I said, no, 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 Daddy's podcasting. Like, podcasting, okay. Who are you talking to this time? I'm like, okay, well, let's. So I played. I was like, I was trying to find the right live clip to play, and my favorite Rush song of all time is Anthem, hands down. Every time, that's my first go-to Rush song. So
Right.
I found a live performance of you guys playing. I said, okay, well, this is the band. Do you want to take a listen? She's like, okay. And then she sees she sees, is it Audie? Am I pronouncing that right?
A D.
A D. So
Yeah.
she comes out, she's kind of dancing around, and right away my daughter's like, well, I like her. You know, she's just like kind of having fun. And then
Yeah.
I think my daughter sort of daughter my daughter plays piano. She's very musical and stuff. She likes Ava Max and kind of like the current Pop Tarts and stuff, right?
Right.
That's what she likes. So she saw the look of her. She's like, oh, she's going to be one of those, and she's just kind of waiting, and then she's at the beginning of Anthem, and I think she was like, oh, and I'm like, yes, dear. Sometimes these singers actually sing
Yeah.
instead of going through some box to
Right.
correct their pitch and whatever. And I said, this is actually a professional singer who knows how, how, I'm not trying to diss the other stuff, but
Yeah.
she's very powerful. And my daughter just sit there stunned
Yeah.
going, oh, like there's a whole, because I think sometimes she thinks like it's just like patchwork stuff, right? It's just you hit a button and then the music's there. Like she didn't realize there was a process behind it and writing it and playing everything. Even though she plays piano, she wasn't making the connection. So, but I think on the vocal side, I don't think she was getting that. She was like thinking you just, so she was real. So when you talk to her, you can say, my daughter was effing impressed
That's
with her abilities.
I'll share that. She'll love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice to see that, like, she's only 10. A
Yeah.
10-year-old is listening to this, listening to Rush, man. I'm getting her into Rush. It's like, damn it, yes. You
That's
know,
that's
kind of
great.
exciting.
Yeah, very.
Yeah. So you guys have gone through well, three different singers. Like you had Rocky from the
Yeah.
Moonlifters. I think she's with now,
Uh-huh.
and then Patty with the
Right.
Accidentals. And now you've got Addie. Now on the albums that you guys have created, I know Rocky was on the first one. Now the second and third one, I didn't really pay attention. But who are the singers on those ones?
Oh, so that's uh that's going to be the same singer on all three records.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
thought maybe there was a let's switch up.
no,
No.
no, the latest record, Light and Shade, that was you know, that was finished, and then Patty came in right on the heels of that, and there was a potential plan for her to maybe redo the vocals on that record, and then it just really just didn't pan out.
Yeah,
And she was really kind of like one foot in, one foot out, and it was like we just,
yeah,
you know, and it's fine. I mean, we ended on great terms, but yeah, it was just really not a long term thing she wanted to pursue, and so there was no real reason for me to write material for her or anything like that. And so then in that downtime, I just went ahead and wrote and recorded a solo record, which is out now. And then so
Wait, out now as of when? Because I was
well,
looking, I was like, oh, when is this out? I was kind of waiting.
yeah, no, it's out now on CD and vinyl.
Okay.
Um, and then there's three singles released everywhere digitally, and then a fourth one that's coming out June 7th. That also features a couple cameos from a couple of the members of YYNOT in the video.
Hey,
But
nice.
uh, but yeah, so I'm releasing the singles, singles. Eventually, the whole thing will be available digitally. But right now, the only way you can have the whole 12 song album is, in fact, here's
Yeah, let's see what
the
the
album
cover looks
cover.
like here.
a different.
Um,
Yeah, very nice
that's
cover.
yeah, that's the
So
cover of
So I bet you Todd regrets buying it now. See,
the. Hey,
this is what
there
I was
she
talking about. This is
is.
Abby.
Hey,
You
nice
want to
to
say
meet
hi
you.
quick? This is Billy.
Good bed.
You're going to bed? You want
Hi.
to kiss? Good night. Yeah, we'll say hi.
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 All right. Good night. Love you. Have a good sleep. Yeah, see ya. Sorry.
No, no,
Oh
don't.
no, I'm not apologizing for that. When that happens, that's the way it is. Live
Oh,
with it.
no, that's a beautiful thing.
So are you
Yeah.
looking, so now that you've, like the ones that you have on your site, the YYNOT site, are
Yeah.
you, is there going to be another album that you're looking on doing?
Well, what we'd like to do, I think, because we perform songs off all three records live, alongside the Rush stuff. And now that Adi is, we needed to make sure that she was going to be like a permanent fit and
Right.
really wanted to be part of this, and she is, you know, big time. So once that was checked, and I completed my solo record, and that was sort of like, okay, I can move on to what, back to the band in terms of original music. So then the plan was to take some of these cuts that she's performing live and then recut the vocals with her, and then just sort of do like a new album that maybe has one or two brand new originals,
Right.
that I'm working on, or one of them I've already written, and then take some of those sort of best of cuts, redo them with her, a couple things with Mike, replacing whoever was playing drums before, and then package that as like a brand new album offering. Um, I
Would
mean,
would you name it like the same thing, or would you have like a? Or
no,
are you thinking of renaming it?
no, I mean, this is an exclusive. I'll go ahead and tell you, but we were thinking of just naming the record Quasar,
Okay.
because that is sort of our logo. It's not a
Yes.
star, it's actually a quasar, and it also
Mm-hmm.
represents the four band members.
Yep.
And also in that way, it represents the honing together of the catalog as far as the past and the future and the present, as an offering to fans with the current lineup of the band. So there's no confusion of somebody going like, well, I like this record, but there's a different drummer or there's a different singer or something like that. So they can get one record that's just, sort of cohesive. And then the catalog is always there for forever if somebody wants to go back and hear
Sure.
what we did in 2018 versus now, or whatever.
Todd is like, damn, I should have waited. Then I could have got your new album, the new Why Not album. No, it's okay. I'll order those.
No, we're proud of those records as
No,
they
no,
are. I mean that,
no, for sure. But I mean,
yeah.
it's kind of nice to get the I don't know, the whole kit and caboodle.
Oh yeah, yeah, you will. But then you'll have a reference point too, so it'll
Yeah,
be
no, for sure.
Like,
You'll still have the older ones available. I would hope, because it's
always.
nice to have the historical perspective.
No, it's the catalog. It's not going
Yeah.
anywhere. I mean,
like
it's
Taylor Swift, she just re-recorded all her stuff, right? But
oh, I didn't even know that.
and just
I
so
did
she
not
can
know
get
that.
the rights to her own music, I guess. But that's a whole different.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, I don't know anything
She
about that.
re-recorded so she could own the masters, so she would own the publishing rights to her own music, which she tried to
Understood.
buy back, and they told her no, someone else is gonna buy it instead. They wouldn't sell it to her.
Yeah, I understood.
Now, when you guys, because I mean, your albums that you've created, you definitely have a Rush influence.
Yeah.
Now, when you play these alongside of actual Rush tunes, do you ever get anybody in the audience going, "I don't remember that song," or do you just come out and say right before you start playing it, saying that this is an original?
That's funny you'd say that. We
Good
don't
question.
pre-announce it because first of all, we don't want to give them an excuse to hit the restroom.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean I'm joking, but not joking. You know what I mean?
Good point. Yeah.
Oh, I totally know what you mean.
I mean, but anyway, no. We sometimes we won't even say, and then some people are looking at each other like, what Rush records this off
Yeah.
of, but at this point though, after having three original albums out and doing this for a few years and touring, you'd be surprised how many people already are familiar with the original songs, and they're actually,
Good.
as soon as we start them, they're cheering because they're like, oh, that's Chemical Burn or whatever. They're very familiar with them.
Good.
In fact,
Because the
more.
stuff's like
Yeah.
I was introduced to your band as the Rush cover band, but then
Yeah.
all I did was go and listen to the albums, and that's what I've been listening to. And I'm like, this shit's good. Like, it
Thanks.
like I'm really enjoying it. Like I had moments listening to the last one, I was at Light and Shade.
Yeah.
There's moments in there when like I actually had to like stop everything I was doing and just focus on the song because it was just some very powerful stuff in there. And I don't just mean technical playing because that's there, but there's moments where obviously like you and Tim are like you're putting a message.
Yeah.
It might not be a lyrical message. It just might be this is a musical message. This is a very important song, and you can feel it. It comes right through. Like it hit me in the chest a couple of times. Like
Oh,
that's
thanks.
that's good. That's
Yeah.
really good.
I appreciate that. That's always the goal, you know. I mean, but that because yeah, I mean, well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say.
Do you guys, when you record your albums, who actually does the recording? Like, do you do the mixing? Do you do the part of the recording, or?
Yeah, I write and arrange everything and produce and mix everything. So
Oh,
that kind of falls on me, and it's not because, you know, I'm like some control freak. It has to do it. It's just a skill set that I happen to have out of the people in the band. And although Mike, our current drummer, he's actually a studio engineer, very good one himself. So and he really like he knows how to record his own drums immaculately, you know.
oh, that's
But
good.
that's usually every album is just basically me kind of putting it together and sort of having the vision for it, and then I'll lay it all down, vocals, bass, guitar, everything, and then I'll send it to, the vocalist to with the lyrics, and then learn the melodies and the phrasing, and then she'll come to my studio and I'll produce the session and get the vocals, and then Tim will learn the bass and maybe add some of his own licks and stuff like that. Lay that down. He'll send that back to me, and then I just here at my studio, I just grind it out until it sounds like a record, and then once it feels like it's done, then it's done, and then that's kind of the process for the whole thing.
So it's
I
all
like that it's
separate.
in house.
It's
That's
not.
good.
It's not like, okay, Tim, you got to come down. I mean, we'll get Mike come down and get everybody in the same room and do it. You
No,
just have them just send. So I mean, you have to
yeah,
have a certain quality of mix when you get it before you can mix it down. So do they have to have? Well, you have to have this type of equipment to be able to record. Minimum
no,
for me to.
no, because I've been doing this for a lot of years. I've produced stuff even for Nashville artists and everything, where if I get the stems and I basically talk them through, or if the part's already written and they just need to lay it down, maybe with their own flair, and then I get it back, then I put it together and mix it. And if I want to tweak the sound, I can do it on my end, to get it to work or whatever. And that's not an uncommon thing, especially these days where producers and engineers can take like a raw track from recorded elsewhere and incorporate it into the session, and then get it to work with the whole final arrangement and mix and everything. But that's the thing that we've got to this point. They know now what when I hand them basically the quote unquote finished product, and it's all mapped out, that now it's like you put your personality onto it, send it back to me, and I'll replace sort of you know, my bass part and put his on top of where that was. The drums have already been played to my bass part, but now when you remove my bass part, he's got the drums on their own
Play off of,
to
yeah.
tighten up. So
Yeah,
even
yeah.
if like I played a bass part that was like ba da ba 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 or whatever, and the drums played to that,
Right.
now he's got just my reference of the part, but he's got the drummer with him going ba da ba ba ba, and maybe he adds a little something, and it's tight. And then he sends me that back, and I drop that into where the drums already exist, and then just kind of I know this is probably boring people to death with the
God
sausage,
no.
No, no,
but
because
This
it's
is
like
this is the meat of our show. Like
oh, okay,
my brother did he did our CD as well. He did
oh
all he did it all and he did a
yeah,
fantastic job on it. So
yeah,
this is the stuff we nerd out about for sure.
yeah, yeah.
so you basically do the scratch track and then you send it to them, and then you say you put your this is how I want it to kind of go, sort of.
It's more than a scratch track. For this kind of music, it has to be more than that because if it was like a country song and it's 4 chords and it's just like give me a beat for the verse and give me a beat, it's not. I plan out the riffs, the stops, the starts, and every punctuation of the arrangements, so I have that already recorded, and I have to do that because since even if it's a drummer who's somewhere else, they have to know where every punctuation is, where every bass line stops, starts. If the bass is different than the guitar, sort of like a Rush arrangement, but then, play to that. And I pretty much have it all done. And then it's not really like a scratch track to just like an acoustic guitar. I put the electric guitars down and everything, just.
No, I mean, like if you were playing the bass part.
Yeah.
And then you sent it off. So the bass part that you did was basically just this is what it should be like. You play it the way you want to play it. That's what I kind of meant by.
Absolutely, no, 100%. Yeah, that's exact. So even if it's a riff, a bass riff that is a signature riff that I had in mind because it's an integral part, and I don't want that going anywhere. And also the drums have already been played to that.
Right.
Sometimes I feel bad putting Tim in that position, and I'll tell him, it's like if you really don't like that bass riff, talk to me or whatever. More often than not, he loves it, and I already know him playing it is going to improve. It's going to make it better. So, and he doesn't have an ego about it or anything, and I give him room sometimes on there's a couple examples where I won't do that because I don't want to put him in that position. I'll leave it open. Also for the drums, say, you just have fun on this outro. I'm going to stay out of the way. I'm not going to put any bass on it. And then Tim, you go, as if you guys were jamming this ending out together, do whatever you feel. And so there's plenty of places like that where it's not me just being like Mr. cracking the whip, do it like I said or whatever. There's plenty of freedom in there. It basically nobody's unhappy with the way it's worked, and I think the results is all anybody cares about anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yeah. So did you learn? Like, are you an actual engineer trained for recording, or was this all done
self-taught?
Self-taught,
Over the years, I've been in the studio, watching and learning from other engineers and producers, and then I've been producing records and stuff like that, even from demos to whatever, for most of my career. So it's really just now learning the new technology and getting that learning curve, and then just teaching myself kind of literally by ear, and twisting knobs and moving microphones until it sounds right. And that's just kind of, it's the hard way, but it's the way I feel like that you learn the best sort of intrinsically, without depending on too much equipment. You just use your ears until you hear it, until it sounds, for me, the way I do it is almost like it's a tape machine, like back in the day when it's tape.
Yeah.
And not depending on auto-tune or all these, things where you can cut and paste and all that. But just like, until I sit back and it sounds like a record, what do I got to do to make it sound like that is what I do. And I don't give up until it does. And sometimes that's a lot of work.
Sure.
But sometimes it's not,
Well,
you got a band like this,
Yeah. Well,
I was going to ask, sorry, Todd, what's the program that you're using for the mixing?
Oh, I work on Pro Tools.
Pro Tools, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Todd, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, that's okay.
Yeah.
It was like, I want to know what program you're using. We use Reaper.
Yeah, no, that's good too. Yeah, I have Logic as well and sometimes I'll use that for more like keyboard based stuff, and I'll fly it in or whatever. But for the most part, I do the majority of the work on Pro Tools. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Just kind of looking on the site there, and you've got like over 20,000 subscribers. You've got 81 videos.
Yeah.
And I think this is all. Is this on Facebook? Or no, that's
probably YouTube. Maybe.
On YouTube. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1,189,318 views. Some of those are mine.
Good. Nice.
Yeah. So are you? I know you guys are based out of the U.S. and from what I gather, all the tour dates that I saw, I didn't really see. I didn't see any Canadian dates. Are
Yeah, we'd
That's your
love to.
complaint.
No, no, we've always, we like to play just about anywhere. It's the and especially now, flights are so expensive and
Hmm.
everything's
that's
Yep.
true.
expensive.
Yeah.
And if I know fans don't always understand because, if you have a band that's on both coasts, and if you do the math on 4 round trip flights, I mean, you're coming to around $3,000, just to
Oh yeah.
get us to a town to play. And then we got,
Rent the
hotel,
equipment.
van rental, equipment, whatever it is. And it's a lot of money just to even drop in and play on a weekend somewhere. So that's the hard part. And then also, it's a lot of work just traveling and spending time away to go do it for those 2.5 hours on stage.
Yeah.
We love it and we want to do it, but if it doesn't, we can't lose money doing
Right.
it.
Oh
Yeah.
no, no.
So and also if a venue, let's say, I don't know, if there's Canada or Kansas or wherever, if they're interested, but they're like, well, but we've never had the band play this market. How's $2,500 sound? As a guarantee. And then we're kind of like, well, it sounds okay, except that we can't afford it.
Yeah.
So it's just really comes down to the economics.
Oh, for sure.
That's really all it is. But we're dying to play Canada. I mean, we have always been. I mean, why wouldn't we? We would just be over the moon to play Canada, and I think it's going to happen. I think it just needs to be the right mix of maybe one market somewhere and then maybe another one that we can get to
Right.
uh,
Yeah. Like there's like
reasonably.
it's festival season in Canada right now. So like, financially it might make more sense if you're
Well,
hitting like, one in Saskatchewan, one in Manitoba, one in Ontario, if they're like,
well, well,
relatively close together.
I tell you what, I'll put it out there right now. If you have any leads or if you know anybody who, contact us because um, we're looking to do it. I mean, we're interested. So it's not a question of that. I mean, there's the interest on our end is there.
We'll take
So,
you out to dinner if you come to Winnipeg. We promise that.
okay, that sounds like a deal.
Yeah. Since Russia's retired, there's
Yeah,
been a big hole when
Uh,
it comes to
yeah,
the concerts here
yeah.
yeah,
for bands
yeah.
like that. So
And we hear that a lot after shows when we're hanging with fans and stuff. And boy, I mean, we feel the same way. I mean, we're fans too, right? We're just blessed to be able to just get up there and put smiles on faces and hang with people just like them. And that's when we get done playing, that's kind of like one of the coolest things. It's like we just happen to be professional musicians doing this, and but at the same time we're just dudes that love the stuff.
yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
after a gig, it's almost like you're on a cloud. Like the gig is over, the pressure's off. You can see all the fans and how happy they are. The lights come up, and then, I
Yeah,
don't know if you guys do signings or
we
anything
do.
after.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it shifts to, oh, we got to break down all this stuff,
Well,
go somewhere and eat, and then drive 3 hours, and then crash, and then do it again the
right.
next day. Yeah.
Yep.
No, we love it. We love
I
every
love the
minute
music.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just as an aside, our cousin Danny, he's in a Kiss tribute band. They do the whole
Nice.
9 yards, the pyro,
Oh my
the
God.
lights, the makeup. They all have the costumes. Very now, if you want to talk about setup financially, it's super
Oh, I
expensive what
bet.
they're doing because they have the flash pots, they have the big
Wow.
sign. Danny, who does Gene Simmons, he actually had to learn how to fire breathe and all that sort of stuff.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's next level, man. Yeah,
oh
that's
yeah,
yeah,
it's nuts.
respect.
They're really good. They're really
Yeah.
good.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, they're called Love Guns, which is awesome.
See, I'd have a
Just
blast
awesome.
going to see that. I'd have so much fun. So with Tim. Tim's like a big Gene Simmons guy.
Is he really? Yeah.
Yeah, oh,
Oh,
yeah, oh
nice.
my gosh. Yeah, don't if he was here right now, yeah, that's what got him into bass, Gene Simmons.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think Gene Simmons is underrated as a bass player.
Oh,
He
yeah.
never gets talked about. I'm like, nah, man, he's good.
Yeah, agree. 100%. Yeah.
If I can just add something, because I'm the Kiss nerd here. So I was listening to, I'm trying to remember what track it was. It was off Light and Shade,
Hmm.
but there was one song that I closed my eyes for a second, and it's I don't know if you're a fan of Bruce Kulick at all. The
I know the name and I know who he is, but
well, he was
yeah,
the '80s Kiss. He's the guy that replaced.
right.
He's been in Kiss, well, probably long. Well, he was in there longer than Ace, really, for sure. He was the '80s guy.
Okay.
And when Bruce Kulick was out of Kiss, when they went back to the makeup and stuff, he was in the band for a long time. Kind of went off on his own. He did 3 solo albums that are masterpieces. I still
Oh,
think he's a
wow.
better guitar player than Ace, and I'm a big Ace fan.
Right.
But his solo stuff that he put out,
Hmm.
I strongly advise listening to it, because there's a lot of stuff that he does on his solo stuff
Hmm.
that I could hear in your tone. There's a
Oh,
lot of similarities for choices that you make that he makes.
oh,
He's an underrated guitarist, but like he's got nice little flourishes like you do on
oh,
your on the specifically in the last album that you guys did. I don't know.
oh,
Anyway, you sound just like Bruce, and Bruce is my favorite guitar player. So
wow. Wow,
yeah,
that's a hell of a compliment. And I'll look into those. I'm always looking for, new stuff. Well, even though it's maybe not brand new, but new to
yeah,
me, my ears.
yeah. They did. There was a Kiss convention here in Winnipeg,
Oh,
and I got to meet Bruce, and I was like, I lost my mind.
that's great.
It was awesome. Nicest guy in the world. And he
Fantastic.
played for Grand Funk for 20 years as well as their
Oh,
lead
wow.
guitar player.
Yeah,
Yeah. Cool guy.
that's
Hmm.
great.
All right. Well, we're at an hour here. I don't want to take
All
too
right.
much of your time, but
Yeah,
uh
no, it's all good.
but uh thanks for coming on. This is great. You didn't have to do it, but I'm glad you did. Super appreciate it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Um yeah.
Absolutely,
I'm
guys.
just
Yeah.
I'm still in
Anytime.
awe that you're even here.
Oh, come on now.
I remember watching you guys going, wow, these guys, and in every video I see, and then you're playing. It's like, wow, I wish I could play like that, but I'll keep practicing.
Well,
Yeah,
no worries.
and kudos to the guys at Rush Rash, because they're the guys that kind of set this up.
Right on.
Kaz is like, hey, you like those why not guys? I'm like, yeah, we love those guys. You want me to put you in touch?
Right on.
Yeah,
Well, actually, I brought it up to him during our podcast. I said,
yeah.
have you ever heard of Why Not? He says, oh yeah,
Right
and
on.
that's how it kind of all started. So
Well, we'll have to do it again with the other band members instead of me flapping my gums the whole time. Uh, and
oh,
and I'll
Yeah,
have to
for sure.
get you. You got give me your address. I'll send you the solo record so you can get that too.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to hear that. I didn't even realize you'd release singles, so I'm going to be searching that out, because I want to hear it, because I want to hear you step outside of that a little bit, because I can hear some influences in there. I'm like, I want to see where you're going to go.
Yeah, yeah. Check it
definitely.
out.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time.